Before you can control your circumstances, you must learn to control yourself. That's where the journey begins. Most people spend their lives trying to change what's happening around them. They try to find a better job, a better opportunity, a better relationship, or a better economy. They believe that if the world would simply cooperate, everything would finally fall into place. But life doesn't work that way. The world has always been unpredictable, and it always will be. The one thing you can truly govern is what happens inside your own mind. That's the greatest power you'll ever possess. Think about it. Two people can face the exact same challenge. One sees an obstacle and immediately begins making excuses. The other sees the same obstacle and starts looking for a solution. The situation didn't create the difference. The thinking did. Your mind is the command center of your life. Every decision, every habit, every achievement, and every failure begins as a thought. If your thoughts are scattered, your actions will be inconsistent. If your thoughts are disciplined, your life begins to move in a disciplined direction. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the conversations you have with yourself every single day. Nobody hears those conversations except you, but they shape everything. If you constantly tell yourself you're too late, too old, too inexperienced, or too unlucky, your actions will quietly follow those beliefs. But if you remind yourself that every day is another opportunity to improve, your behavior starts to change. Your confidence grows not because life becomes easier, but because your thinking becomes stronger. You don't have to win every battle in a single day. You simply have to win the battle taking place in your own mind. Every morning, your thoughts compete for your attention. Comfort says, take it easy. Fear says, don't take the risk. Doubt whispers, you're probably going to fail. But discipline has a different voice. It says, get up anyway, learn anyway, work anyway, improve anyway. The voice you listen to the most eventually becomes the direction of your life. Here's something worth remembering. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't intentionally plant seeds of purpose, gratitude, learning, and discipline, weeds will grow automatically. Negativity requires no effort. Complaining comes naturally. Blaming others is easy. But growth requires attention. Success requires cultivation. Every worthwhile thought must be planted, protected, and repeated until it becomes part of who you are. That's why successful people guard what enters their minds. They are careful about what they read, what they watch, who they listen to, and who they spend time with. Every influence either strengthens your thinking or weakens it. If you fill your mind with excuses, you'll become an expert at explaining why your dreams never happened. If you fill your mind with wisdom, you'll discover new possibilities where other people only see limitations. There will be days when life tests your patience. Plans will fall apart. People will disappoint you. Unexpected problems will appear without invitation. In those moments, you have a choice. You can allow circumstances to control your emotions, or you can allow your principles to control your response. One reaction creates chaos. The other creates character. Character is built one decision at a time, especially when nobody is watching. Remember, emotions are wonderful servants, but terrible leaders. If you make every decision based on how you feel in the moment, your life will constantly move in different directions. Some mornings you'll feel motivated, and other mornings you won't. That's normal. But your commitment should never depend on your mood. A disciplined mind learns to act according to purpose rather than emotion. That's how progress is made, day after day, long after excitement fades. You also have to become the guardian of your attention. We live in a world that constantly competes for our focus. Distractions are everywhere. Noise is everywhere. Opinions are everywhere. If you allow everything to capture your attention, you'll never have enough energy left to build your own future. Learn to focus on what truly matters. Every minute spent worrying about things you cannot control is a minute stolen from the things you can. The remarkable thing is that once your thinking begins to change, your actions naturally follow. You become more patient because your mind is calmer. You become more confident because you've stopped arguing with your own potential. You become more resilient because you've trained yourself to see setbacks as lessons rather than defeats. The outside world may not change overnight, but your ability to handle it becomes stronger every single day. Never underestimate the quiet victories. Every time you reject a negative thought, every time you replace fear with courage, every time you choose responsibility over excuses, you're building a stronger version of yourself. Those victories may seem invisible today, but over time they create visible success that everyone else notices. Great lives are built from invisible disciplines practiced consistently. So before you chase success, chase mastery over your own mind. Because when your mind becomes your greatest ally instead of your greatest obstacle, every other victory becomes possible. Now, once you've begun to master your thinking, the next challenge naturally appears. It's one thing to have the right thoughts when everything is going well. It's something entirely different to keep your composure when life refuses to cooperate. That's where emotional control becomes one of the greatest advantages you'll ever develop. You don't become successful because you never experience anger, disappointment, fear, or frustration. You become successful because those emotions no longer dictate your decisions. Life has a way of testing every lesson you've learned. Just when you believe you're making progress, something unexpected happens. Someone criticizes your work. A deal falls apart. A trusted friend lets you down. An opportunity you've been working towards suddenly disappears. In those moments, your first reaction will almost always be emotional. That's perfectly human. But your first reaction doesn't have to become your final decision. Wisdom lives in the space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Too many people spend years building something valuable, only to destroy it in a single emotional moment. One angry conversation damages a relationship. One careless decision ruins a career opportunity. One moment of impatience closes a door that might never open again. Success isn't usually lost because people lack talent. It's lost because they fail to control themselves when pressure arrives. Think about the strongest people you've ever met. Chances are they weren't the loudest people in the room. They weren't the ones reacting to every inconvenience or arguing over every disagreement. Their strength came from their stability. They remained calm while others panicked. They stayed focused while others became distracted. They listened before speaking. They thought before acting. That kind of emotional discipline creates trust, and trust opens doors that talent alone cannot. One of the greatest habits you can develop is learning to pause. Not forever, just long enough to think clearly. When something upsets you, don't allow the emotion to grab the steering wheel. Take a breath. Ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? Is my response helping or hurting my future? Those simple questions can save you from countless regrets. A few seconds of self-control can prevent years of unnecessary consequences. Remember, every emotion carries energy. Anger has energy. Fear has energy. Excitement has energy. The question isn't whether you'll feel those emotions. You will. The real question is where you'll direct that energy. You can use frustration as an excuse to quit, or you can use it as fuel to improve. You can let criticism discourage you, or you can let it sharpen your determination. The emotion itself isn't your enemy. The lack of control is. Another truth you'll discover is that not every opinion deserves your attention. People will misunderstand you. Some will underestimate you. Others may even try to discourage you because they're uncomfortable with your growth. If you react emotionally to every negative comment, you'll spend your entire life defending yourself instead of developing yourself. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Silence, when chosen wisely, is a sign of confidence, not weakness. It's also important to understand that emotional maturity means accepting responsibility for your feelings. It's easy to blame circumstances. It's easy to say someone else made you angry or frustrated. But the moment you hand someone else control over your emotions, you've also handed them control over your peace of mind. Your emotional state is your responsibility. That's not always easy to accept, but it's incredibly empowering. When you take ownership of your responses, you reclaim your freedom. There will be seasons when nothing seems to go according to plan. Progress feels slow. Results are delayed. You begin wondering if your efforts are worth it. Those are dangerous moments because impatience often convinces people to abandon the very path that would have led them to success. Don't confuse delayed results with failed efforts. Some of life's greatest rewards require patience that most people are unwilling to practice. Emotional control also changes the way you treat other people. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with understanding. Instead of seeking revenge, you choose wisdom. Instead of allowing pride to damage relationships, you value long-term respect over short-term satisfaction. You'll discover that people naturally gravitate toward those who remain steady under pressure. They become leaders not because they demand authority, but because they demonstrate self-control. Every challenge you face becomes an opportunity to strengthen this skill. Every difficult conversation teaches patience. Every setback develops resilience. Every disappointment gives you another chance to prove that your emotions no longer own your future. Little by little, you become someone who cannot be easily shaken by temporary circumstances. And here's the beautiful part. Once you stop allowing emotions to control your decisions, your confidence begins to grow naturally. You trust yourself because you've proven, time and time again, that you can remain calm when others lose control. That's real strength, not the strength to overpower others, but the strength to govern yourself. Never forget this. Your greatest victories won't come from controlling people or circumstances. They'll come from controlling your response to both. Because when your emotions serve your purpose instead of your impulses, you become nearly impossible to defeat. Once you've learned to control your thoughts and your emotions, the next step is where real transformation begins. Your thinking may be strong, and your emotions may be under control, but neither of those will change your life unless they are expressed through consistent action. This is where discipline enters the picture. Discipline is the bridge between who you are today and who you're capable of becoming. It's not glamorous, it rarely gets applause, but it is the quiet force behind every lasting success. People often ask what separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who only dream about them. Many assume it's intelligence, talent, or luck. Those things can certainly help, but they are not the deciding factor. The greatest difference is found in what people choose to do on ordinary days. Success isn't created in a single breakthrough moment. It's built through hundreds of small decisions that most people never notice. It's choosing to get out of bed when comfort tells you to stay there. It's reading one more chapter when others are watching television. It's finishing the work you promised yourself you would do, even when no one is watching. The truth is, your future isn't shaped by what you do once in a while. It's shaped by what you do repeatedly. Every habit is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Every time you choose discipline over convenience, you're strengthening your character. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're building trust in your own abilities. And that trust is incredibly valuable because confidence doesn't come from talking about success. It comes from proving to yourself that you'll follow through. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting until they feel motivated. They say they'll start when they feel inspired, when life becomes easier, or when the perfect opportunity arrives. But motivation is unpredictable. Some mornings you'll wake up excited. Other mornings you'll wonder why you started at all. If your progress depends on your feelings, your results will always be inconsistent. Discipline teaches you to move forward whether you feel like it or not. That's the difference between wishing for a better life and creating one. Imagine an athlete preparing for an important competition. They don't train only on the days they're excited. They train on the difficult days, the tiring days, and the days when no one is cheering. Why? Because they understand that champions are not built on competition day. They are built during the quiet moments of preparation. Your life works the same way. The victories everyone sees are earned during the moments that no one else notices. Discipline is also about respecting your own potential. Every one of us has abilities waiting to be developed, but potential means very little without consistent effort. Think of potential as a seed. A seed has incredible possibilities hidden inside it, but unless it's planted, watered, and cared for every single day, it never becomes the tree it was meant to be. Your dreams deserve the same level of care. They don't grow through hope alone. They grow through daily action. Another powerful truth is that discipline simplifies life. At first, people believe discipline feels restrictive. They think routines take away freedom. In reality, the opposite is true. Discipline creates freedom because it removes unnecessary chaos. When you develop healthy habits, you waste less time making decisions. You know when to work, you know when to learn, you know when to rest. Instead of constantly negotiating with yourself, you simply do what needs to be done. That consistency creates momentum, and momentum makes difficult things feel easier over time. You'll also discover that every act of discipline strengthens the next one. The first early morning might feel difficult. The first workout might test your resolve. The first time you choose learning instead of entertainment may require effort. But each small victory changes something inside you. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop identifying as someone who quits easily and start identifying as someone who follows through. That's a powerful shift because your identity influences your behavior. Once you believe you're a disciplined person, disciplined actions become natural rather than forced. Don't underestimate the value of small improvements. Too many people become discouraged because they don't see dramatic results overnight. They expect massive changes after only a few days of effort. Life rarely works that way. Success compounds quietly. One disciplined day may not seem significant. Neither does one disciplined week. But months and years of consistent action create results that seem almost unbelievable to those who were looking for shortcuts. The little things done consistently always outperform the big things done occasionally. There will be times when you're tempted to skip the process. You'll convince yourself that missing one day doesn't matter, and by itself, perhaps it doesn't. But habits are never built or broken by one decision alone. They are strengthened by repetition. Protect your routines because your routines eventually shape your destiny. The small disciplines you practice today will become the foundation of the life you enjoy tomorrow. Always remember that discipline is an act of self-respect. Every time you choose what is right over what is easy, you're sending yourself a powerful message that your future matters more than your temporary comfort. That's how ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. Not through perfection, but through persistence. Not through bursts of motivation, but through unwavering consistency. When your thoughts are disciplined, your emotions are steady, and your daily actions reflect your highest values, success is no longer a matter of chance. It becomes the natural outcome of the person you've chosen to become. By now, you've seen how mastering your thoughts gives you direction, how controlling your emotions gives you stability, and how daily discipline creates lasting progress. But there's another layer that quietly shapes your future every single day. It shows up in the words you speak, the habits you repeat, and the environment you choose to live in. These may seem like small things, but never underestimate their influence. Your life is rarely changed by one dramatic decision. More often, it is shaped by the little choices you make over and over again until they become your identity. Let's begin with your words. Most people don't realize that they are listening to themselves all day long. Every sentence you speak reinforces a belief. If you're constantly saying, "I'm always unlucky, nothing ever works out for me," or "I'll never be successful," you're training your mind to accept those statements as truth. Eventually, your actions begin to match your language. That's why you must become intentional with the words you use. Speak about possibilities instead of limitations. Speak about solutions instead of problems. Speak about progress instead of perfection. Now, this doesn't mean pretending life is easy or ignoring reality. It means refusing to let negative language become your permanent mindset. There's a big difference between saying, "This challenge is difficult," and saying, "I'll never overcome this." One statement acknowledges reality. The other surrenders to it. The words you choose either strengthen your confidence or slowly weaken it. So choose them carefully, because your future is listening. The same principle applies to the conversations you have with other people. Complaining has become almost fashionable. Put a group of people together, and before long, someone starts criticizing the economy, their job, their boss, or someone else. Negativity spreads quickly because it requires no discipline. But ask yourself this: after an hour of complaining, what has actually improved? Usually nothing. In fact, you've only multiplied discouragement. Instead, become the person who brings hope into the conversation. Offer ideas. Ask better questions. Encourage people. You'll be surprised how much influence one positive voice can have in a room full of negativity. Then there are your habits. Every habit is like a silent architect, building your future one brick at a time. Most habits don't feel important when you're doing them. Reading 10 pages doesn't seem life-changing. Saving a little money doesn't seem significant. Exercising for 30 minutes doesn't appear extraordinary. But neither does wasting 30 minutes every day, scrolling without purpose, or putting off important work until tomorrow. The difference is that one set of habits quietly builds your future, while the other quietly steals it. Habits are powerful because they remove the need for constant decision-making. When excellence becomes a habit, success stops feeling accidental. You no longer have to convince yourself to do the right thing every day, because you've trained yourself to act automatically. That's why it's so important to pay attention to the routines you're creating. Every repeated action becomes easier with time. The question is whether you're making good habits easier or making bad habits stronger. If there's a habit that's holding you back, don't try to change your entire life overnight. Start with one decision. Replace one unhealthy routine with one productive one. Small victories create momentum, and momentum is one of the greatest allies you'll ever have. Once you experience the satisfaction of keeping one promise to yourself, you'll find it easier to keep the next one. Now let's talk about your environment, because whether you realize it or not, your surroundings are constantly shaping your behavior. Look around you. The people you spend the most time with, the books you read, the conversations you entertain, the media you consume, even the physical space where you work, all of these influences are quietly affecting your thinking. If you're surrounded by excuses, eventually excuses begin to sound reasonable. If you're surrounded by people who strive for excellence, you'll naturally begin raising your own standards. You don't always have control over every circumstance, but you do have control over many of the influences you allow into your life. Be selective. Protect your mind as carefully as you would protect your health. If a certain environment drains your energy, constantly encourages negativity, or distracts you from your goals, have the courage to step away. Growth often requires changing not only your habits, but also your surroundings. And here's something else worth remembering. You also become part of someone else's environment. The question is, what kind of influence are you? Do people leave conversations with you feeling more hopeful or more discouraged? Do your actions inspire trust, or do they create uncertainty? Your example has far more power than your advice. People are always watching how you live, even when they aren't listening to what you say. As your habits improve and your environment becomes healthier, you'll notice something remarkable. Good decisions begin to feel natural. The temptations that once seemed overwhelming lose much of their power because you've removed many of the triggers that kept pulling you backward. Success becomes less about fighting constant battles and more about living according to principles you've chosen in advance. Never forget that greatness is not built by extraordinary actions performed once. It's built by ordinary actions performed consistently with excellence. Every encouraging word, every productive habit, every wise decision about your environment becomes another investment in the person you're becoming. Those investments may seem small today, but over time they produce a life that others admire and wonder how it happened. The answer is simple. It happened one word, one habit, and one decision at a time. By this point, you've already begun to understand something powerful. You can control your thoughts. You can manage your emotions. You can build discipline, choose your habits wisely, and create an environment that supports your growth. But now we arrive at the place where all of those lessons are truly tested, because life will not simply stand aside and applaud your progress. It will challenge you. It will disappoint you. It will tempt you. And whether those moments become your downfall or your greatest source of strength depends entirely on how you respond. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers, but only if you're willing to learn from it. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid every difficulty, every setback, every uncomfortable experience. They believe comfort is the goal, but comfort has never built character. Comfort has never produced greatness. Comfort rarely asks anything from you. Growth, on the other hand, demands effort. Growth requires sacrifice. Growth often begins where comfort ends. Think back to the most valuable lessons you've learned in your life. Chances are they didn't come during the easiest seasons. They came after disappointment. They came after mistakes. They came after failure forced you to look at yourself honestly. Difficult experiences have a way of revealing who we truly are. They expose our weaknesses, but they also reveal strengths we never knew we possessed. Failure, despite its terrible reputation, is not the enemy. Failure is information. Failure is feedback. Failure is an instructor that tells you what didn't work so you can become wiser the next time. The real tragedy is not failing. The real tragedy is refusing to learn from failure. Some people experience one setback and allow it to define their identity forever. They stop trying. They stop believing. They convince themselves that one defeat means they're incapable of success. But one event does not determine your destiny unless you decide to stay there. Every successful person you admire has a collection of failures hidden behind their victories. The difference is they refuse to let failure become their permanent address. They treated it as a temporary stop on the journey. They asked better questions. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" they asked, "What can this teach me?" That simple shift changes everything. A victim asks why life is unfair. A student asks what lesson can be gained. Now let's talk about temptation, because temptation often arrives quietly. It doesn't usually appear as something obviously destructive. It appears as convenience. It appears as immediate pleasure. It whispers, "Skip today's work. You can start tomorrow." It says, "Take the easy path. Nobody will notice." It offers short-term comfort while quietly stealing long-term rewards. And here's the challenge. Temptation often feels good in the moment. That's why self-control matters so much. Every day you're making a trade. You're either sacrificing what you want now for what you want most, or you're sacrificing what you want most for what you want now. That's the decision. Success often requires delaying gratification. It requires the ability to say no to something good so you can say yes to something greater. And every time you resist a temptation that would pull you away from your goals, you become stronger. Strength is not built in easy moments. Strength is built when you have every reason to quit but choose to continue. It's built when you're tired but remain committed. It's built when nobody is watching and you still choose integrity. Those moments may seem small, but they are shaping your character. Character isn't developed through speeches. Character is developed through choices. There will be seasons when life feels unfair. You may give your best effort and still experience disappointment. You may work hard and not see immediate results. You may remain faithful to your goals while others appear to succeed through shortcuts. In those moments, remember this. Your responsibility is not to control every outcome. Your responsibility is to control your response. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose who you become because of it. Resilience is one of the most valuable qualities you can develop. Resilience doesn't mean you never feel discouraged. It doesn't mean you never experience fear or sadness. It means those feelings don't get the final word. You acknowledge them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. That's real courage. Courage isn't the absence of difficulty. Courage is progress in the presence of difficulty. And something remarkable happens when you begin responding to pain, failure, and temptation with wisdom instead of emotion. You stop fearing adversity. You begin seeing challenges as opportunities to grow stronger. The very things that once threatened to break you become the tools that build you. Your scars become evidence of endurance. Your setbacks become stepping stones. Your struggles become proof that you are capable of more than you once believed. Remember, life doesn't simply reward talent. Life rewards perseverance. It rewards those who keep going when the path becomes difficult. It rewards those who remain disciplined when excuses would be easier. And every challenge you overcome becomes a reminder that you are stronger than the obstacle standing in your way. So don't run from pain. Don't be ashamed of failure. Don't surrender to temptation. Use them. Let them train you. Let them refine you. Let them reveal the strength that has been waiting inside you all along. As we come to the final part of this journey, I want you to step back for a moment and look at everything we've talked about. We began with your thoughts because every action begins in the mind. Then we explored your emotions because a calm mind is only valuable if it can remain steady under pressure. We talked about discipline because good intentions without consistent action never produce extraordinary results. We looked at your words, your habits, and your environment because they quietly shape the direction of your life every single day. And finally, we discovered that pain, failure, and temptation are not obstacles to success. They are opportunities to become stronger. Now, all of those lessons come together in one simple truth. Before you can truly win anything in life, you must first win yourself. That may sound like a small idea, but it changes everything. Most people measure success by what they own, the position they hold, the money they earn, or the recognition they receive. Those things can certainly be rewarding, but they are not the highest form of success. The greatest victory is becoming the kind of person who deserves those rewards. Because if success arrives before character is ready, success often disappears just as quickly as it came. But when character is built first, success has a strong foundation to stand on. You see, the world is full of people trying to compete with everyone else. They're trying to be better than their neighbors, better than their coworkers, better than their competitors. But the most important competition you'll ever face isn't with another person. It's with the version of yourself that wants to settle for less than you're capable of becoming. Every morning, that version whispers familiar excuses. It says, you've done enough. It says, take the easy road. It says, you can always start tomorrow. The question is not whether you'll hear those voices. You will. The question is whether you'll obey them. Winning yourself means making decisions based on your values rather than your feelings. It means showing up on the difficult days just as faithfully as you do on the easy ones. It means keeping promises to yourself even when no one else knows those promises were made. That kind of integrity creates a quiet confidence that no applause can provide. You don't need constant approval from the outside because you've earned respect from the person you see in the mirror every morning. One of the beautiful things about self-mastery is that it influences every area of your life. When you control yourself, your relationships become healthier because you listen more than you react. Your career improves because people know they can depend on you. Your finances become stronger because you learn the difference between temporary pleasure and long-term value. Your health improves because you make decisions based on what serves your future rather than what satisfies the moment. The same discipline that helps you succeed in one area begins spreading into every other area of your life. People often search for complicated formulas to achieve success. They look for secret strategies, shortcuts, or overnight transformations. But lasting success has never been complicated. It has always been consistent. It is the result of making the right choices over and over again until those choices become part of your identity. Success is not an event. It is a lifestyle. It is the natural outcome of becoming a person who refuses to compromise on principles. There will always be things outside your control. Markets will change. Circumstances will shift. Opportunities will come and go. People will sometimes disappoint you. Life will continue to surprise you in ways you never expected. But once you've learned to master yourself, those external changes lose much of their power over you. You become steady while everything around you is changing. You remain focused while others become distracted. You continue moving forward while others are waiting for perfect conditions that may never arrive. Never underestimate the ripple effect of self-control. Your example gives other people permission to raise their own standards. Your consistency inspires confidence in those around you. Your calmness brings stability during difficult moments. You may never fully realize how many lives are influenced simply because you chose to lead yourself well. Leadership always begins with self-leadership. Before anyone willingly follows your advice, they'll first observe your example. And here's something that should encourage you. You don't have to become perfect to become powerful. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is. There will still be days when you make mistakes. There will still be moments when you fall short of your own expectations. But self-mastery isn't about never stumbling. It's about refusing to stay on the ground. Every setback becomes another opportunity to practice the principles you've learned. Every new day becomes another chance to become a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little more disciplined than you were yesterday. Imagine where your life could be 1 year from now if you simply applied these lessons consistently. Imagine waking up with a clearer mind, responding with greater patience, following disciplined routines, speaking with purpose, choosing better influences, and treating every challenge as an opportunity to grow. Those changes may seem small on any single day, but together they create an extraordinary life. That's how greatness is built. Not through one dramatic moment, but through thousands of ordinary decisions made with extraordinary commitment. So as you leave here today, don't wait for someone else to change your life. Don't wait for luck to find you. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity to appear. The greatest opportunity you will ever receive is the opportunity to govern yourself. Everything you've ever wanted begins with the person you're becoming. Master your thoughts, master your emotions, master your habits, master your responses. When you do that, you'll discover that the greatest victory was never over the world. It was always over yourself, because the day you truly conquer yourself is the day the world can no longer conquer you.